Ibrahim Traore. The name alone now sends ripples through the corridors of power, from Ouagadougou to Moscow, from Paris to Washington. As the presidential jet, a gleaming Ilyushin Il-96-300 from Putin's own fleet, touched down at Ouagadougou International Airport, all eyes were on the tarmac. There, in a scene that was as symbolic as it was unprecedented, military honors were rendered. The Burkinabe Prime Minister and top officials stood at attention, and most remarkably, the Russian ambassador and his inner circle were waiting. But why? Why did Russian officials break diplomatic protocol to welcome Ibrahim Traore home, just as they had personally seen him off days earlier? What does this reveal about the new world being forged in the Sahel? Before we dive in, if you're passionate about African stories, power shifts, and the rise of a new multipolar world, hit that subscribe button now. Thank you to everyone who's already joined our community. Your support is why these stories are reaching hundreds of thousands. And don't miss our upcoming explosive video on how Putin and Traore prevented a coup in Burkina Faso while Traore was in Russia. Trust me, you'll want to see it. Let's start with that extraordinary airport scene. In diplomatic circles, protocol is everything. Normally, when a head of state returns from a foreign visit, it's the home country's officials who greet them. The presence of the Russian ambassador and his team at Ouagadougou Airport is highly unusual. So what's behind it? First, consider the aircraft itself. This wasn't a commercial flight or even a standard government jet. It was one of Putin's own presidential fleet, flown by a Russian crew. Russian officials may have been there to cater to the needs of their crew, ensure the aircraft's safety, and oversee its prompt return to Moscow. But that's just the surface. Before we continue, welcome to Izizi Africa, where we bring the African vision to life and make African stories go global. Help us in pushing the message forward as we continue to inspire, educate, and empower. Subscribe now, like, and share our videos, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for our next videos. Now let's continue. There's also the matter of security. With Burkina Faso's history of coups and the ever-present threat of instability, the Russian delegation could have been bringing confidential, immediate briefings for President Ibrahim Traore, updates on the security situation while he was away, or even intelligence gathered by Russian operatives. After all, during Traore's absence, both Russian and Burkinabe forces were reportedly on high alert, with rumors swirling about extraordinary security protocols put in place to deter any coup attempt. Was this arrival a moment to hand over sensitive information face to face, away from prying eyes and ears? Or perhaps it was a gesture of deep appreciation, a way for Russia to thank Traore for making the high-risk journey to Moscow despite credible threats to his safety. It could well be all of these reasons, and more. What do you think? Was the Russian presence about the aircraft, about security, about diplomacy, or about something else entirely? Let us know your theories in the comments below. And remember, our next video will go deep on the secret security measures Traore and Putin put in place to keep Burkina Faso stable while its president was in Russia. Now, let's rewind to those dramatic days in Moscow. Ibrahim Traore in Russia was no ordinary diplomatic visit. He arrived as a guest of honor at the 80th anniversary of Russia's victory over Nazism, a moment loaded with history and symbolism. Only a select group of world leaders were invited, and among them, Traore stood out. Not only was he the youngest head of state present, but he was also the only one to arrive in full military regalia, pistol at his side, a living symbol of Africa's new assertiveness. The world watched as Ibrahim Traore marched alongside Putin on Red Square, his presence a powerful statement of Burkina Faso's pivot away from its former colonial master France and toward a new alliance with Russia. During the commemorations, Traore's speech electrified audiences across Africa and beyond. Standing beside Putin, he declared, "We want machines, not aid," a bold call for African self-reliance, industrialization, and scientific education. The Ibrahim Traore speech in Russia wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. He called out the old order, challenged dependency, and demanded a new era where African nations control their own destinies. But it wasn't just about speeches and parades. Behind closed doors, Ibrahim Traore and Putin held a series of high-level meetings. The agenda was ambitious: military and defense cooperation, scientific and educational collaboration, economic development, and a shared fight against terrorism and extremism. Putin himself told Traore, "Today, we are united in the fight against terrorism and extremism." The two leaders discussed joint military projects, including training Burkinabe troops and officers in Russia, technology transfer, and the potential for joint military production. They talked about scholarships for Burkinabe students, university partnerships, and technical training to build local capacity and reduce dependence on Western institutions. The partnership isn't just military. Economic and humanitarian ties are deepening fast. Russia has doubled its scholarship quota for Burkinabe students, sent tens of thousands of tons of wheat and food aid, and is working with Burkina Faso on infrastructure, energy, and healthcare projects. There is talk of joint scientific research, laboratory infrastructure, and even nuclear energy development. During the economic days in Russia last year, Burkina Faso sent a high-level delegation to build new trade and investment links, and a dedicated working group is now in place to drive cooperation forward. What's behind this rapid deepening of ties? For Ibrahim Traore, it's about sovereignty, security, and self-reliance. Since coming to power in 2022, Traore has survived 18 assassination attempts and multiple coup plots. He's made it clear that Burkina Faso will not be a pawn in the games of Western powers, nor will it return to the days of dependency on France. Instead, Traore is betting on a multipolar world where Africa can choose its own partners and chart its own course. For Putin, the alliance is equally strategic. With Russia facing Western sanctions and isolation over Ukraine, Africa is a vital new partner, one that offers diplomatic support, economic opportunity, and a chance to challenge Western dominance on the global stage. But what about the West? How are France, the US, and their allies reacting to this new axis between Ouagadougou and Moscow? The answer is with a mix of alarm and grudging respect. Western analysts have been forced to acknowledge that the old model of influence in Africa is crumbling. Traore's embrace of Russia is seen as a direct rebuke to French and American policies in the Sahel, which have often been criticized for failing to deliver security or development. Some Western commentators have gone so far as to accuse Traore of selling out to Moscow. But on the streets of Ouagadougou and across much of Africa, the mood is very different. There, Traore is seen as a hero, a leader, willing to stand up to the old powers and demand a new deal for his people. Let's not forget the Pan-African dimension. Ibrahim Traore didn't just represent Burkina Faso in Moscow. He spoke for the entire Confederation of Sahel states, the AES bloc that includes Mali and Niger. Together, these countries are forging a new path, one that rejects neocolonialism and embraces partnerships based on respect and mutual benefit. Traore's speech in Russia was a rallying cry for African dignity and unity. He invoked the legacy of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's legendary revolutionary, and called on African nations to stop behaving like puppets and start acting like sovereign actors on the world stage. And the results are already being felt. In just 2 years, Burkina Faso has paid off domestic debts, raised civil servant salaries, and invested in local industries. The country is pushing for food self-sufficiency, energy independence, and a new model of development that puts African interests first. Russian support is making a real difference, whether it's in the form of military training, humanitarian aid, or investment in infrastructure and education. But there are still big questions. Can this alliance deliver real security and prosperity for the people of Burkina Faso? Will the partnership with Russia stand the test of time, or will it face the same pitfalls that have plagued so many foreign interventions in Africa? And what about the risk of new forms of dependency, this time on Moscow rather than Paris or Washington? Those are questions only time will answer. But for now, one thing is clear. Ibrahim Traore has changed the game. His return to Ouagadougou, flanked by Russian officials and honored by his own government, marks a new chapter in African diplomacy. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher. So, what do you think? Was the Russian presence at the airport just about protocol, or does it signal something much deeper? Are we witnessing the birth of a new world order in the Sahel, or just another twist in the long history of foreign involvement in Africa? And what lessons can other African leaders learn from the bold moves of Ibrahim Traore? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice is part of this story, and don't forget, our next video will reveal the inside story of how Putin and Traore worked together to prevent a coup in Burkina Faso while Traore was in Russia. You won't want to miss it. If you found this analysis insightful, hit like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping Africa and the world. This is a new era, and together, we're telling it as it unfolds. If you believe in an Africa that rises on its own terms, if you support this movement for self-reliance, dignity, and progress, then be part of the change. Like this video, share it far and wide, and let the world know that a new Africa is here. And of course, make sure to subscribe to Izizi Africa, where we bring the African vision to life and make African stories go global. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on the transformation happening across our great continent.